Welcome to the Gary Sinise Foundation podcast. I'm your host, Cristin Bartter, and today I'm joined by the remarkable U.S. Army Captain Leslie Nicole Smith. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you. It's so great to be here, Cristin.
I'm so excited. Okay, I'm going to brag on you a little. Leslie's journey is one of extraordinary strength, courage, and unwavering dedication. A decorated veteran, Leslie has faced immense challenges and emerged with an inspiring story that speaks to the heart of what it means to serve. From her time in the military to her path of recovery and advocacy, Leslie continues to uplift those around her with her positive spirit and commitment to empowering others. Okay, so Leslie, I'm so excited for you to be here and to just share your story with so many grateful Americans who are listening. And so to start, can you share a little bit about your history?
So I was actually born in Winchester, Virginia, and we lived there for a few years because my dad had been in the Army, but then...
Okay, so it's his family.
Family, yes. And then we ended up moving to southern Pennsylvania, which is where I grew up in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And got really involved, like in high school. I was a cheerleader, was involved with the yearbook. I was homecoming queen.
Of course.
So, I tried to really stay active.
Yeah.
And I really believe truly that came from my mom because at age 10, she had me volunteering for the American Red Cross, helping to give swimming lessons in the summer. Now, as a 10-year-old, you're thinking, how can you help with swimming lessons? But for 2 hours in the morning, she would drive me in, and then I would help with the little preschool kids. And, I've looked back over my life and all of these different things, and it's just incredible how she really is the reason for instilling the sense of service and giving back at such an early age.
Right.
That motivated me to keep going and to keep doing as much as I could even through high school.
It makes a lot of sense now. Yeah.
So then whenever I was a senior and trying to decide what to do, my dad, of course, had been in the Army, and he has kind of a cool story too. I always love to share this because he is really the inspiration for me deciding to serve in the Army.
Okay, yeah, I want to hear.
So when he finished high school, he went to work at the local shoe factory, like his older brother. And his job was to literally pound the nails in the bottoms of the shoes. And he said he only did it for a few weeks, and he literally was saying to himself on the job, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this forever. And he went to the recruiting station, enlisted in the Army. They tested him. He tested very high, which was very, surprising to him at the time.
Oh.
And he ended up working at the White House. So he went from like Newbury, Pennsylvania, pounding nails, to serving in the Army at the White House with their communications agency. And, it's just been so remarkable over the years, like hearing his stories that he has shared with like me and my brother and everything. And he remembers the names, the dates, everything, the specifics. But all of those stories and just that influence of his service, the magnitude of his service at the White House, you cannot go any higher. And I just always remember being so proud of his stories because he would light up and he would smile and remembering and sharing all of these, times and being in the Army. And I just kind of, it just stuck with me. And then it was a disciplined type growing up, so.
I know that too.
Yeah. So it was good. It was good for me. I needed that. And it really made a difference for me and guiding me. And so when it came time to make the decision, I just remember thinking, I just want to make my dad proud. I just want to follow in his footsteps. I want to serve in the Army because he's my hero, right? He's my hero. And I just, like I said, wanted to make him proud and show him that what he taught me, along with my mom, instilling the sense of volunteering and the giving back and sacrificing for those, that need help, those that are struggling or are challenged, that's where the real gift comes from.
Yeah.
And that has been my inspiration and my motivation all through my journey, and it's one that I don't regret. I would never change, and I thank my parents every day for who they are and who they made me out to be.
Well, the apple does not fall far from the tree, as they say. So then you ended up joining the military.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did Army ROTC.
Okay. Oh.
And in college, so I went to Marymount University in Arlington, but in the DC area they have a consortium, so I actually did the ROTC program at Georgetown.
Wow.
And which was actually, it was a really neat experience because you met people from all the different local colleges, because everybody came to Georgetown for Army, they went to George Washington for Navy, so you really got a cross reference, so to say, of meeting a lot of different people and everything. And then I was branched originally into the Nuclear Biological Chemical Corps.
That's a mouthful.
Not a good fit for me because I'm not a math, chemistry type person.
Okay.
And I was luckily able to change and go to the public affairs school. Thank goodness, which was much more fitting because my degree was in communications, public relations, and so it was really a perfect fit. And then I had a short deployment to El Salvador in 1999 to help with hurricane relief efforts, which was very eye-opening to see how other people lived in other countries, and it was such a humbling experience to see how they live, but to be there to help them rebuild, it just really reinstilled again everything that my parents had instilled in me.
Yeah.
And then my final deployment was to Bosnia.
Okay. And so when was that?
That was in 2001.
Okay.
So we were pre-mobed, ready to go. We were at Fort Dix, which is very close to New York City. It was we were in New Jersey, and we were to leave September 17th. So we were still there. 9/11 happened, and we all instantly were ready to just go to New York City. We wanted to stay in country to help everybody in New York City, or wherever they would say, to the Pentagon or out to Pennsylvania. We just wanted to be there to help. But they said no, because there was talk of the possibility of World War III, because nobody really knew what was happening, right?
No.
I mean, it was such a shock and such a tragedy that we were still sent forward into Bosnia on September 17th. And it was tough. It was very hard to leave the United States after being attacked and having such great loss and tragedy. I mean, it pulled at our heartstrings. We just wanted to stay and to help.
Yeah.
But we knew we still had this mission, and so we, like I said, we were sent forward into Bosnia, which again changed my life in so many incredible ways. I just didn't know it at the time, but it turned out to be really the best thing for me.
Yeah. I mean, I just have to, 1 week after September 11th, just 1 week, you're scheduled to deploy. And I love how your instinct is, you just want to help. Like, your instincts are just to get in there and to do what you have to do. And I remember in boot camp for the Marine Corps that they had this exercise that they did, and we were all inside of this room, and the drill instructors come running out, and they said that that a tragedy has happened, and that we have to prepare. And I'm only about a month in, and I'm like, wait, and my instincts, I had fear. I remember like what they said, what they were like as they were running in. I remember every step they took and where they were standing when they told us, and I had fear. And you're 1 week after, I mean, that was a couple of years after September 11th, 1 week after, and your instincts are just to go in there and just and to
That's
do
just
it.
what we wanted to, it was almost like, I mean, we certainly wouldn't, but it was like we wanted to push back and say, no, we're staying. But of course, you can't. You have to, go with the mission and what the general says. But I do remember distinctly when we were getting ready to land into Bosnia, holding hands with the row across of, all the soldiers, because literally, again, there was the talk of World War III, and we all grabbed hands as we landed, and we said to each other, I love you. And as you know, that bond and that camaraderie in the military is so strong and so pure that you will sacrifice your life for the person next to you, for your soldier next to you, for your service member next to you. And it was just so instantaneous, and it wasn't like a planned thing. It wasn't like, okay, everybody, it was just instant. We just all just did that. And like I said, I will never forget that moment because we didn't know what we were going into, but we were ready to go into it. We were ready to fight. We were ready to defend. We were ready to help, the people in Bosnia however we could, because again, we thought the world was under attack.
Right. I mean, our world pre 9/11 and our world post 9/11 were two different worlds.
Right. It's changed so much, right?
And you're just 1 week after and you were out there.
Right.
Oh my goodness. So how was that deployment?
That was the best time of my life, really, because the one thing I always try to tell people is that the local Bosnian people were so friendly, genuine, warm-hearted, but most importantly, they were so thankful and grateful. And then being a public affairs officer, I worked amongst them because they actually worked in the DFAC, the dining facility, the laundry facility. They ran like the little PX, the little pizza place, the little coffee shops. So, I would see them and work alongside them, and they became like family.
Yeah.
They would want to hug every day.
Oh.
They would have tears, and they would always say, "Thank you, U.S. troops, for being here," or "Thank you, U.S. military, for saving us. Thank you for helping us to rebuild," because their schools, the town, the churches, everything had basically been shot up or blown up or something. Everything was in ruins, and we were there pretty much to help them regain their peace and to help them rebuild. But to see that and feel that and see it in their eyes, and it's coming from their heart, all of that emotion, that like true gratefulness that we were there, it became again like family. And so my job there as a public affairs officer was to handle all of the visits by celebrities, the high-ranking military, the politicians, and I like to share my favorite story.
Please do.
So my favorite celebrity visit was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Shush.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Oh,
so
man, he was like, prime.
Right. He had a movie, Collateral Damage.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So he came over for 3 days.
Dang.
And I'll never forget, the general said, and I know he was being kind of funny, he was like, "Well, Smith, I guess you're going to be Schwarzenegger's bodyguard." I was like, absolutely, right? I'll do it. Like, I'm a pretty tough cookie. I might be little, but I'm a pretty tough cookie compared to Arnold, of course. Yeah. So, no, he was amazing. And what was kind of great about it was he called me Laura the whole time because he said I looked like Laura Bush.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
So the whole time. But that man went non-stop for 3 days. And he made sure every soldier met him, got pictures with him, signed autographs. He smoked cigars with the guys. He ate ice cream.
Oh.
He was doing everything and anything he could do. And I mean, we were up round the clock. And what the guys really loved too was that in the very early morning, he would go to the gym and work out.
Of course.
So it was like 3 days of just nonstop, and his dedication and his passion, really his passion to make sure he lifted morale and that everybody got to meet him. Even the soldiers out on the forward, outward posts, he made sure at like 3 and 4 in the morning out there visiting with them, talking with them, making them feel that they were, as they are, just as important, but not forgotten because you're on the outpost at 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
I love that.
The energy that he brought.
That was the main deployment, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how did that go about?
Well, I loved it so much, right? Because I could see the difference we were making, again, from the people. Bosnia was a beautiful country. It kind of reminded me of home growing up in Pennsylvania. And I just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I fell in love with what we were doing.
Mm.
Again, the mission, the job,
Mhm.
my job specifically, the people, the camaraderie, right? I mean, it's almost addicting.
Oh, yeah.
The military,
Oh,
it's
yes.
very addicting,
Oh, yes.
right?
Yes.
And it's just such a different sense because you're giving back so much more than yourself,
Mhm.
right? And there's nothing,
It's just a mission.
there's
Mhm.
nothing more gratifying than that.
Mhm.
So that's when I decided that I would love to stay for a second tour.
Mm. Of
So
course.
I asked, and of course they said yes, which I was like, okay, my life is set.
Mhm.
I've got like this 1-year plan. I've got a 3-year plan. I've kind of got the 5-year, 10. I'm on a roll. I am like on fire right now.
I love it. Yeah.
Right? So yeah, that was all great. And then basically the rug gets pulled out
Mhm.
from under me because I developed a blood clot in my left leg.
Mhm.
And I remember trying to hide it for days because, and I'm okay to say this, I didn't want to be perceived as the weak female soldier.
Mm.
I was terrified of that. So terrified and mortified if anybody thought that I put up with the pain. And I mean, got to the point where it was hard to walk and then do the job, also. So that's when I finally was like, I have to go to the clinic. After it seemed like maybe a couple of days, I was like, I have to go to the clinic. And then that's when they found the blood clot. And it's like, okay, it's a blood clot. So what? Well, the next thing I'm in the general's office with the brigade surgeon. And they're basically like telling me I have to leave. And I'm trying to fight back and convince them, right, the general and the brigade surgeon, oh, I'm fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with me. Like, I'm not
just
bleeding.
a little bit of pain. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not, like, there's
you
just...
are in pain.
Right, but you don't want them, you don't ever want them to know. And I'll never forget, the general just said, he goes, Smith, pack your bags, you're out of here tonight.
Mm.
And it was like, my heart sank. Because my first thought was, I can't leave the people.
Mm.
I'm not done yet. I'm supposed to stay for the second tour. I don't want to be a failure. I remember thinking that I was so afraid of being perceived as a failure because I had to leave early and I really didn't have a choice. I really didn't. And the crazy thing was we were about 2 weeks away from the end of the first deployment. We were so close.
So close.
And I
weeks.
remember just thinking, can't I just please finish out, maintain my dignity, and return with the brigade? And even though I won't be able to stay for the second tour, at least let me finish. And they were like, no. And I remember walking out of there feeling devastated, again, fighting feelings of being a failure, embarrassed. I felt so embarrassed that I couldn't stick it out. And then had to go back to my little Connex room and I just could take basically what I could carry, like the personal stuff. Everything just got left behind. And I remember a plane, and then that's kind of the last memory I have before getting back into the United States and then going to Walter Reed, which was then the beginning of the real journey that has changed my life, forever. And
they know that your life is at risk.
Right, and I didn't necessarily think of it as a risk. I was willing, looking back, I was willing to take the risk of having something bad happen to me or dying, as I've learned now, looking back, because of that, again, pride and that just passion of serving. That's how strong it is. Wow. Right? And I know you get that. That's just how strong it is. The camaraderie, that bond, you don't want to let down, the people you're serving with because you're a family. You have to, we held hands landing, then we needed to hold hands and say, hey, I love you guys when we're taking off and leaving. And I didn't have that chance to do that. So the chapter never really closed for me, but in the long run, it was a true blessing that the general and the brigade surgeon knew what they were talking about, and that they did send me home because of then. And if I had stayed, I probably would not have made it.
Yeah, you would not be sitting here. So can you tell? So what happened?
So then when I got back at Walter Reed, and then things started to just spiral downward, like very quickly, and was admitted. Family was called in, my parents, my brother, because at the time the Army had what they called imminent death status. So basically what was happening was, the way they explained it, my body was creating like thousands of tiny blood clots. It's kind of just the simple answer that they had said. So I was literally dying, and they knew that. And so then that prompted this imminent death status paperwork. Imminent, like
so
24 hours.
Be any moment. They're just they're like prepared.
I was to be gone within 24. It could have been an hour, could have been at 23, 55. I mean, it was happening. So my mom, and of course I was on so much pain medicine, because what happened too is I started to kind of spontaneously hemorrhage and bleed in my legs, is where it really started. And then it slowly started to move up into like your main organs, and so that's what really causes the dying part.
How did you react?
Well, like I said, I remember being on just a ton of pain medicine. I don't remember a whole lot. My mom had said that I was begging for Pepsi, which is probably why I'm a Pepsi addict.
Why the Pepsi's out of the screen right now?
I know. That's all I wanted was a cold can of Pepsi.
What more could you want?
I know, right? I'm like, I might as well go out on my favorite thing in the whole world. And they actually finally convinced the doctors to allow me to have a sip of Pepsi out of a can. I got like one sip, one little bit,
One.
Yeah. No. So I don't think I've ever told that before. So thank you, Cristin, because that's you just made me think of that, and how, just kind of how amazing that in these final moments I'm wanting, a drink of Pepsi.
You just want some comfort,
right? So, but I just remember being in extreme pain, like, off the chart. And of course my family being there. And of course I didn't hear this conversation, but my parents had said the social worker was then sent to talk to them so that they could make funeral arrangements. So they literally were like sitting down with my parents and saying, do you want to have Leslie buried at Arlington National Cemetery, or are you going to take her body, like, say, home back to Pennsylvania? I cannot fathom for the life of me what my parents and brother would have been going through. I just can't. It almost makes me glad that I was on the side that I was, because the pain of what you're, what that would be like, I can't imagine. So that was though when they said, the doctors came in and said, we have one last kind of ditch effort we can try, and it's a medicine, and if we try it though, it may take her life sooner out of the 24 hours. But if we don't try it, we just don't know. And so my parents said, absolutely give it to her, because it was the only chance. And so they gave me this medicine, and it slowly started to slow things down to where I did survive. And I always credit that God was on my side, and that my stubbornness kicked in, and that somewhere deep down I knew it wasn't my time, and that there was more to do. There was more of that serving or that giving back. And I can remember thinking too that, okay, even though I can't wear the uniform anymore and fight the fight, I will have a new mission. I'm going to have a new purpose, and it's something even greater than I could have ever imagined. But I had to go to Bosnia. I had to go through that experience to get to where I was at Walter Reed, and after, to again get me to the point of being here today, talking to you and sharing my story.
Exactly. So then you start to get it starts to work. The drugs start to work a little bit.
Yes.
And then what happens?
It started to work a little bit, but not enough that it saved my leg. So in a sense, like the damage had already been done because again, I was bleeding in my legs initially.
Right.
So they took me into surgery, and they told my family that they weren't sure what was going to happen.
Did you know what was going to happen?
No. The only thing I do distinctly remember was Dr. Goff came into my room and sat literally like right on the edge of the bed. And actually my mom said he wanted her to leave the room. He didn't want anybody else in the room. It was just the two of us. And I do remember this because he took my hand and he just said, "Don't you die on me." Right. So, and then I was whisked off to surgery, and they went in and they realized they couldn't save my leg. So the left leg right below the knee was amputated. And then I also lost very, very large amounts on my upper legs because the bleeding was taking place there, and that's what was happening, was it was killing all the tissue. So they had to do debridement surgeries on the upper parts and on my backside. So, and nobody really knows that because you don't, you can't see it, other than I'm now crooked and kind of very uneven, and
you're perfect.
So it's and that was actually probably the hardest part, more than the amputation, because the amputation, it was gone. Like, right? It was just removed completely. The massive scarring on my legs and my backside, at first I'm like horrifying. Like, I'm disfigured, I'm deformed, I'm so ugly. I'm gonna wear snowsuits the rest of my life.
No.
So that nobody could tell that I was uneven and just had a strange, kind of shape and everything, because it took longer to heal from the debridement because I had to wear vacuum packs on the wounds. Right. Yep. And they had to be changed every 3 days. So I went into surgery like every 3 days. I probably had about 20 some because in changing it helped the healthy tissue to regrow and regenerate, to where then I was able to have skin grafts. And I remember the doctors saying they wanted to take it from the backs on my back. And I was like, you can take it from all below somewhere, because the down below part, that's over with. It's like, but at least allow me to have, not have scarring on my back or shoulders. Because at the time I was 33, which is, that was really, it's young, right? And so we're girls, right? We like to wear strapless dresses and, all of that. So in my mind, somewhere, I guess I had enough notion to protect the upper part. But so they actually took, for the skin graft, they took it from the other part of my backside. And so, and then it's been harder to deal with that because I'm seeing it every day. Like, I see a prosthetic leg every day, but again, it was removed and gone. There was it was not left damaged. Okay. This part was left damaged.
That's so interesting, because for you to learn this has all happened after the fact.
Right. It's like it started to define me. Because I started to say again, okay, you're alive, but you're disfigured now. And you were going to have to wear ugly clothes.
No.
Right? Because I had this image in my mind of, and it was the image of what I looked like. And of course it was magnified because it was very traumatic to look at it, because the best way I can describe it is it looks like a shark had lunch on my legs. Like I have massive shark bites.
No.
So, and I've never really shared that before.
No.
So I appreciate talking to you. And it's like, you know, because if it can help somebody else who has scars or scarring, I've learned that they are now my badges of honor, my survival scars. I'm very proud of them. I did talk to a plastic surgeon at one point. You know, they were saying ways that you could help to cover them up and this and that. And I was like, nope. You know what? They're mine.
They're you.
I survived and I'm proud of them now. And so, but that was tough. And it was tough not letting those negative thoughts come in. And I realized, as we all do with everything, every day in life, that I had a choice to either, basically what I was thinking at the time, to roll over. And I did. I was literally like, I should just roll over in bed, face the wall, just give up. Again, like I'm saying, like I'm done.
Right.
And then it was like, but hold on, you know, because hold on a second. I guess I survived for a reason. I'm being given a second chance. And maybe I should make the best of this.
Right.
So whenever, you know, they had amputated my leg and the doctor came back in after when I woke up and my mom was in the room and you know, and I guess this is, again, just a part of me, and it's already instilled in me that my first question was not, will I ever walk again, to the doctor. It was, will I be able to wear high heels again?
Yes. Yes.
I really didn't care. It's so crazy how you're so many.
I love this.
You could call my parents
shoes.
right now. Right?
We love our shoes.
Right? And I think I have like 300 pairs of shoes now. I
broke
shoe
my ankle
room.
and I was like, am I going to be able to wear boots?
Yes. So,
yes.
You know, and again, just looking back, it's such a fluid experience because there's like, again, that was just the highs and the lows, like the lows of like, okay, I'm disfigured. I'm going to have to sit in a corner the rest of my life to hold on a minute. I want to wear high heels again to, you know, wearing snowsuits and then back up to what really helped to, I think, really make that difference for me was, this all happened in 2002. So I was the second amputee at Walter Reed. Second. There was another soldier named Deshaun who was already there, and then me. Second, right? Then 2 soldiers came in with amputations. They had been in Afghanistan. They were there doing some other missions prior. Right. And they had both lost legs. And then I started talking to them and realizing, okay, this makes me feel good. Like, this is healing to me. Yeah. This feels like a good therapy. And I can remember being down in the physical therapy room and I was walking by then and I was, you know, kind of wobbling like a penguin. You know, I wasn't like, you know, great at it, but I would go up to these guys and I'd be like, hey, I'm Leslie, you know, and they'd be, you know, okay, whatever. Please don't bother, you know, bother me.
Because they're dealing with their own, they're just taking it all in and Of
course, I didn't go away. I pulled up because I would be in sweatpants because remember, I was going to be in snowsuit. So I was still very paranoid, right? So I'd be in sweatpants. I'd pull my sweatpant leg up and be like, look, I'm an amputee too. And then it was like, questions. Well, when does it stop hurting? Are you running yet? Do you sleep in your leg? You know, how heavy is it? Like all these questions and things that I had. Yeah. But nobody was there to answer.
Second, so you didn't have anyone to turn to.
No, because in fact, if you can believe this, I asked to see what a prosthetic looked like or what it was. They didn't have one that they could bring to the room and say, okay, here's a prosthetic leg. This is a sample of what you will.
Yeah, your future.
Right. Yeah. So it was just so incredible, and it really just kind of reinforced, okay, this is why I was saved. This is why I survived, because now I'm here for the guys, being able to have lived through it, survived it, know the pain, know the ups and downs, and I'm able to help them with the questions. And sometimes there would be no questions. It would just be kind of like silence. I just would kind of be there, because you can sense maybe when somebody just needs a person just for support, but not engaging in conversation, because it might be too tiring that day, or you just want to be kind of alone, but you still need that support. And that really, it's the understanding.
Exactly.
That somebody else is there that has gone through it and just gets it. And I just found that to be very, very positive for me in my healing. And then I started to say and realize, I came up with my 3 S's.
Okay.
So I would be like, I would share, I'm talking to the different soldiers, and I would be like, okay, so the first S is you're a survivor. You're here for a reason. You have a second chance. And under no circumstance can anybody take that away from you, because that was between you and God. So second, you're a service member. So you are already strong. You are already trained. You're already disciplined mentally, physically. You can complete the mission.
Yeah.
And then the third S was, because of the combination of being a survivor and a service member, that makes you special. And then I realized, like I said, okay, I'm not wearing the uniform anymore. I do miss that terribly, but I have a bigger calling, and I found it. And I'm so lucky that I found it. And then that just set me on the course of forging ahead and practicing like a fool to wear high heels, falling down.
You do, though.
I was,
you do wear them.
That's right.
Yep.
So it was like I set that goal, and
I love that.
I guess too, because of having that second chance, I didn't want to ever give up on that. I had something to prove, not only to myself, but also to my family, because they were there, and you never want to give up on your family.
No.
I mean, it's not us as military, first responder, people that serve. It's not ingrained in us. So we will fight to the end, no matter what it takes.
Yep, absolutely. You could have easily just stuck in that darkness, and there's and many people do, and you found, what would they need to hear? What will they need to hear to get through this?
Right. And I think I had an experience in the hospital. I remember I was by myself, and like my mom hadn't gotten there yet, or my dad, and everything, and this amazingly positive, joyous all love feeling came. I was just lying there. It was about 11 in the morning, and it just came down to the top of my head, and it just like came all through me, and it went out. And I remember looking down and then seeing, part of my leg missing, and then it going out my right foot, and it was like an angel. It was an angel, because there's no other explanation. And the message was, again, pure joy, pure happiness, pure love, to the point where I started crying, but it wasn't sad tears. It was happy, like joyous tears. And when I followed it out, because I could physically feel it, and when it went out at the end of my right foot, and I looked up, there were these 3 distinct white doors floating on clouds. And as I looked up, they all opened at the same exact time. And I had no really idea what it meant. I was just so overwhelmed by the positive energy that was sent, that, again, I just feel like it just really reaffirmed that you have a new calling, and this is your new passion. This is your new path, and what was it? My 2-year plan, 3-year, 5-year plan that I thought was going to be in place forever, like just mapped out, like how we do in the military, right? Mindset, gone. And that you have so many opportunities coming that you don't even realize. And realizing then too that was a gift. So the loss really has turned into a blessing because it's given me that whole new appreciation for life,
Right.
where you actually stop to smell the flowers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you stop to look at the sunset and you appreciate just everything out there, the little things.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I got out of Walter Reed
Mm-hmm.
and I went back to work, actually for USO World Headquarters, and worked as a media relations specialist,
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, you know, again,
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the right path.
Right.
I'm out there, I'm working, I'm still serving because I'm helping our military, right? The USO, it's like still part of the whole military family.
Absolutely.
And so this was been then in 2005. Randomly, no warning whatsoever, through the night, I went completely blind in my left eye. Okay, you know, it's like,
Yeah. No,
that just doesn't happen, right? It just really doesn't happen.
Shocking.
Right? And went to the VA.
Mm-hmm.
They said, it's a fluke. It'll never happen again. And then I remember thinking, well, all right, I've got one eye now. I've got one leg. I can handle it. You know, it's like, I'll just...
So it didn't come back?
No. It was gone. Just gone.
Gone.
Just like I said, no warning. I wasn't sick. I wasn't, you know, having headaches. I wasn't, no issues. I didn't fall. Like I've even thought about, did I fall or did I trip or did I hit my head somehow? Did I eat something weird? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So a year later, it happened again. Same thing, like through the night, but was able to get to the VA in time that they saved the vision.
Okay.
So then that's when they said, all right, it's not a fluke.
Yeah, something's wrong.
Something's wrong. So that was 2006. So then in 2010, I was like on a local trip.
Mm-hmm.
And again, no warning. There's never any warning. Happened again, but it was much more, you know, severe.
Mm-hmm.
Got to the hospital there at Walter Reed in ICU,
Mm-hmm.
and I was totally blind. The right eye had gone. Like it just
Just
gone.
like the left, just gone.
Just gone. Like just, you know, and way back in my subconscious, I can remember just thinking, well, who in the heck's going to do my hair and makeup now?
Oh my gosh. Like, no.
Right, that was
like,
my first
this
thought.
is not going to be work
right,
for
and
me.
I'm like, gosh.
You've already been like one eye. No. Oh my God.
So, like, how, like, kind of shallow does that sound?
No.
Right? Like, you're in total...
Well, you're thinking about the immediacy of this. Like,
right.
what is going to happen?
Right, and I remember thinking, oh no, my mom, like,
oh,
is
no,
going to be in charge of my hair and makeup and just, like, what I wear and all, you know, and all of this. And it was like, oh my gosh. And then honestly, the reality
Mm-hmm.
set in because, I mean, it was just total darkness.
Yeah.
The reality of like not seeing.
No, you were in shock.
Like
Yeah.
not seeing anything, like colors or your family or ever driving.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it just, there's such a finality to that. And I remember having, I guess it was like a panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can remember feeling that I was buried alive,
Mm-hmm.
nailed in a coffin underneath the floor in my hospital room, and that my family and the doctors were above, and I was banging and screaming to get out.
No.
So, I've realized that was like, I guess my mind trying to probably accept that I was
Process,
in total,
yeah.
I was trapped, like, you know, in this total darkness, because it is like, initially it is like being trapped.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had that kind of scary
Mm-hmm.
amount of anxiety, and then by the grace of God and a miracle, on the third day while I was there, they came around to do rounds. And at the time, my little brother was, I think, doing a residency there at Walter Reed. And so he came in with the doctors when they would come in and check to see if any vision had come back. And they, you know, like, open and do you see any fingers? And out of this little slit, almost like if you peek through the blinds to see, this is how I explain it, like if you peek through the blinds to see who's at your front door, it's kind of like that is what I was trying to look out through.
Mm.
And they had, fingers up, and I blurted out like 2.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, what?
Yes.
I was like, so, and my mom said that one of the doctors went down into the cafeteria to get the other doctor, and that doctor had his breakfast tray and kind of dropped it and was like, the only explanation is a miracle. Like, there's no medical explanation that her vision, that little smidge,
Mm-hmm.
Came back. But in thinking about all of it, it's like, it could happen again at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're in 2024. It's been a long stretch, and I'm so thankful every day. But I also live with that every day, that
The fear that,
it could happen
right.
any time, any night, because that seems to be when it happens. So I kind of had made a promise to myself that I want to give my complete all, like 150% every day. Because if it does happen, I don't want any regret that I didn't try my hardest
Mm-hmm.
that day. That would have been my last day of having sight. I don't want to
Right.
remember myself as having been, oh, I don't want to make the effort, or
Right.
oh, I'm kind of tired,
Right.
or I don't want to be bothered.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be in the mindset like,
Mm-hmm.
dang, you rocked it. Your last day,
Mhm.
like you rock, like,
Yeah.
and
It
then
was a good day.
having that
Yeah.
positive energy going into what would be then, okay, total blindness, but not being afraid
Right.
of it. So then I was like, well, maybe a service dog
Mm-hmm.
will help. And one of my friends had a service dog from Canines for Veterans. But I remembered thinking too, well, there's other people that need a dog more. So let me just hang back a little bit more. Let me just wait and let everybody else who needs one more, or who wants one, let them go first, right?
Mhm.
Just let them go first. And then something just kind of hit me, and it was like, okay, let me just go ahead and reach out to this organization. And thank God I did, because it was a calling, right? It was meant to be.
Yeah.
And I told them about myself. I filled out the application,
Mm-hmm.
and then they called back very shortly after, and they were like, we have the perfect dog for you. His name is Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
And he's big and strong, and he's beautiful. And we think with your travel schedule and your daily life, and as much as you're out and about, he's going to be the best match, because he's so adaptable, and he's been our best in training with dealing with different scenarios,
Mm-hmm.
like really busy, really
Yep.
crowded, really quiet.
Yeah.
He's the best. He's going to be the best match for you. And the amazing thing about him was, he was trained as a service dog, not as a guide dog per se. And I started to notice he started to adapt the way he helped me on his own without any training, right? Isaac, superstar.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like, he had been trained to pick things up. So I would drop things all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
What he did then was he would nose poke me. So before I could see him, and I'd be like, take it, thank you, Isaac,
Yeah.
you're the best, and, little treat and stuff.
Oh, he adjusted.
He adjusted, and boop, he'd like touch his nose to my hand and be like, I'm here. This is where I'm at. And then I knew exactly where to put my hand, and he, I'm like going through the
Sweet
motions
baby. Yep.
of dropping it into my
Mm-hmm.
hand, all on his own, like just
Goodness.
all on his own. And so he was definitely a gift.
Mhm.
He was a blessing, and he came into my life at the right time, because we were together for that year. And then when I, like you said, kind of really needed a friend,
Yeah.
he was there.
I love that. Oh.
And we were together 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Oh.
he did deploy to
Yeah.
heaven, but he had to go do a different mission.
Right. So, as you know, this podcast is in honor of Mac, Gary's son, who we lost earlier this year. And like Mac, you have such a positive spirit and like this beautiful sense of hope. Where does that come from? And what would you tell our listeners who are going through challenges and who may feel a bit hopeless?
For me, what came is tapping into this inner fortitude
Mm-hmm.
that didn't even know I had. We all have it. We all have it.
Okay.
It's just whether or not you need to find it or not. And you can make the difference, not only for yourself, of course, but what's the most important is you can make a difference, a positive impact for others.
Right. So what drew you to the Gary Sinise Foundation?
Really where it all started was 2005 at the DAV, Disabled American Veterans Conference in Vegas. I was at the right place at the right time. I talked to Dodie McCracken, told her my story, and then she's like, how would you like to share your story regarding the American Veterans Disabled for Life Memorial, right? And so it was like, yeah, absolutely, right? So kind of got started with that. It was 2006. It was in New York City for a fundraiser for the memorial. That's where I first met Gary.
Okay.
And what I will never forget about that,
I'm excited. Tell me it all.
Was not only being like completely tongue-tied because it's Gary Sinise and it's just right.
I cannot imagine that with you. Though.
No, trust me. Right? But then the publicist, I think his name was Bruce. He was like, "Would you be on Fox News tomorrow morning with Gary to talk about the memorial?" And it's like, yes, it's like in the back of your mind.
You're so brave. You're so brave.
I just blurted out like, yes, and it's like, so I went, like literally met Gary the night before on Fox News Live with Bill Hemmer, like that next morning, like at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., whatever it was, in uniform, to talk about this memorial that was so needed and everything.
Well, and from that, you just, as you have your whole life, just given and give and give, and you're just one of those people who gives back and finds a way. But Gary, he likes to give a little more. And you are going to be one of our new recipients of a specially adapted smart technology home that is built for your needs. And a lot of the people who are listening are, from the kindness of their heart, they give generously to make sure that people like you are going to be able to be welcomed home into your forever home. How does that feel?
It's life-changing is really the best word. It's magical.
Yeah.
It's a magical, wonderful feeling to know that I'm going to be at home in Tennessee, right here in the Nashville area. I'm so excited. There's, like I said, there's really, truly no exact words to express, but the amazing thing is I'm going to have so much freedom and independence from where I'm at now, currently living, and it's just going to allow me to just get out there even more.
I love that Gary recently at the Lieutenant Dan Band concert here in Nashville, he brought you on stage and basically introduced you to all your new neighbors.
Right, I know. Right?
So
right.
I have to ask you, how does it feel to have like the community support, let alone Americans all across the country?
Well, I mean, the first thing out of my mouth on the stage was, "Hi, neighbors."
Yes.
Right? Again, heart, mind, and soul has clicked that this is where I'm meant to be.
I love that. You have a very big family now.
That's right. I know. I'm so happy.
Yep. I cannot wait for that for you. So why is this work that you do through the Gary Sinise Foundation and that Gary does to help support our brothers and sisters in arms and our first responders, why is that so important to you?
Because like I was saying before, it's not a one and done thing. It is a definite journey. And I feel strongly, I know in my heart, that all of us, whether wounded, ill, injured, first responder, family member, military, what has happened to us will continue the rest of our lives. So, and as a perfect example is how my vision loss has been over the course of years and can still, happen again. But the thing that I love and that keeps me going with the work, and I think really for Gary too, is just knowing that we will never be forgotten. We're never going to get lost. We're never going to be alone. We're never going to be scared. We're never going to not have that security of knowing that you as family and the foundation, you will be there no matter what. And you can't really put a price on that in the sense of feeling, like I said, part of that family and that community. And so I'm not afraid. I'm not scared. Even though it is harder to navigate with vision loss and whatnot, I still want to get out there because I want to show all of you what your love, your dedication, your work ethic, your passion to come to work every day, and everything that Gary embodies. All of us in the wounded, ill, and injured community, veterans, military, the families, the first responders, I've always said that we as a collective, we do not give up because Gary Sinise and the Gary Sinise Foundation does not give up on us.
Thank you. Beautifully said. Beautifully said, Leslie. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You have such an indomitable spirit and absolutely a heart of service. And it's just been such my honor to be able to serve on this mission alongside you. And I cannot thank you enough, and I cannot tell you how much I value your friendship and just coming on here and sharing your story. I know it will uplift so many of our listeners. So thank you so much for being here. And as we do with every podcast, Mac will close out the show.
You've been listening to GSF Podcast, the official podcast of the Gary Sinise Foundation. If you'd like to find out more about what the foundation is up to, or if you'd like to make a donation, please visit GarySiniseFoundation.org. Make sure to tune in next time for more interviews, and thanks for joining us.